to your messenger Muhammad, son of Abdullah. Allah's blessings be on him and his family. And it is your spoken words through the tongue of your Prophet. Advised by the narrations of its advice and who avoid your disobedience. Ya Allah, do not seal my ears when I'm reciting it, and do not place a curtain over my sight, nor make my recitation a recitation lacking pondering. Rather, make me from among those who ponder over its verses and its rules, deriving the ways to your religion, and do not make me heedless when I'm looking at it, nor my reciting a waste. Surely you are the most gentle, the most merciful. صدق الله وصدق صدق رسولنا الأمين الكريم. Who's going first?
This uncle, do you want to go first?
I can do that, yeah?
Bismillah.
Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والمحصنات من النساء إلا ما ملكت أيمانكم كتاب الله عليكم وأحل لكم ما وراء ذلكم أن تبتغوا بأموالكم محسنين غير مسافحين فما استمتعتم به منهن فآتوهن أجورهن فريضة ولا جناح عليكم فيما تراضيتم به من بعد الفريضة إن الله كان عليما حكيما ومن لم يستطع منكم طولا أن ينكح المحصنات المؤمنات فمما ملكت أيمانكم من فتياتكم المؤمنات والله أعلم بإيمانكم بعضكم من بعض فأنكحوهن بإذن أهلهن وآتوهن أجورهن بالمعروف محصنات غير مسافحات ولا متخذات أخدان فإذا أحسن فإن أتين بفاحشة فعليهن نصف ما على المحصنات من العذاب ذلك لمن خشي العنة منكم وأن تصبروا خير لكم والله غفور رحيم صدق الله العلي العظيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Have the next reciter, please.
So we have 9 people. If we can start with Mustafa and Tanzani, please.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يريد الله ليبين لكم ويهديكم سنن الذين من قبلكم ويتوب عليكم والله عليم حكيم والله يريد أن يتوب عليكم ويريد الذين يتبعون شهوات أن تميلوا ميلا عظيما يريد الله أن يخفف عنكم وخلق الإنسان ضعيفا يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تأكلوا أموالكم بينكم بالباطل إلا أن تكون تجارة عن تراض منكم ولا تقتلوا أنفسكم إن الله كان بكم رحيما ومن يفعل ذلك عدوانا وظلما فسوف نصله نارا وكان ذلك على الله يسيرا إن تجتنبوا كبائر ما تنهون عنه نكفر عنكم سيئاتكم وندخلكم مدخلا كريما ولا تتمنوا ما فضل الله به بعضكم على بعض
بعضكم
للرجال نصيب مما اكتسبوا وللنساء نصيب مما اكتسبنا والسوء واسألوا الله من فضله إن الله كان بكل شيء عليما ولكل جعلنا موالي مما ترك الوالدان والأقربون والذين عقدت أيمانكم فآتوهم نصيبهم إن الله كان على كل شيء شهيدا الرجال قوامون على النساء بما فضل الله بعضهم على بعض وبما أنفقوا من أموالهم والصالحات قانتات حافظات للغيب بما حفظ الله
حفظ الله
بما حفظ الله واللاتي تخافون نشوزهن
نشوزهن
فعيذوهن واهجروهن في المضاجع واضربوهن وإن أطعنكم فلا تبتغوا عليهن سبيلا إن الله كان عليما كبيرا وإن خفتم شقاق بينهما فابتغوا حكما من أهله وحكما من أهلها إن تريدوا
إن يريد
إصلاحا يوفق الله بينهما يوفق الله بينهما إن الله كان عليما خبيرا واعبدوا الله ولا تشركوا به شيئا وبالوالدين إحسانا وبذي القربى واليتامى والمساكين والجار ذي القربى والجار الجنوب والصاحب والجنب بالجنب وابن السبيل وما ملكت أيمانكم إن الله لا يحب من كان مختالا فخورا الذين يبخلون ويأمرون الناس بالبخل ويكتمون ما آتاهم الله من فضله واعتدنا للكافرين عذابا مهينا والذين ينفقون أموالهم رئاء الناس ولا يؤمنون بالله ولا باليوم الآخر ومن يكون الشيطان له قرينا
فساء قرينا صدق الله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد أحسن بارك الله فيه أحسنت.
Can we have Hussein Uncle Jiwa next, please?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wa maza alayhim law amanu billahi wal yawmil akhir wa anfaqu mimma razaqahumullah wa kana Allahu bihim alima. Inna Allaha la yazlimu miskala zarrati wa in taku hasanatan yuzaifaha wa yu'ti min ladunhu ajran azima. وكيف إذا جئنا من كل أمة بشهيد وجئنا بك على هؤلاء شهيدا يومئذ يود الذين كفروا وعصوا الرسول لو تسوى بهم الأرض ولا يكتمون الله حديثا يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تقربوا الصلاة وأنتم سكارى سكارى حتى تعلموا ما تقولون ولا جنوبا إلا عابري سبيل حتى تغتسلوا وإن كنتم مرضى أو على سفر أو جاء أحد منكم من الغائط أو لامستم النساء فلم تجدوا ماء فتيمموا سعيدا طيبا فامسحوا بوجوهكم وأيديكم إن الله كان عفوا غفورا ألم تر إلى الذين أوتوا نصيبا من الكتاب يشترون الزلالة ويريدون أن تزلوا السبيل والله أعلم بأعدائكم وكفى بالله وليا وكفى بالله نصيرا من الذين هادوا يحرفون الكلمة عن مواضعه ويقولون سمعنا وعصينا واسمع غير مسمح وراءنا ليلا بألسنتهم وتأنهم في الدين ولو أنهم قالوا سمعنا وتأنا واسمع وانظرنا لكان خيرا لهم وأقوما ولكن لأنهم الله لعنهم الله بكفرهم فلا يؤمنون إلا قليلا يا أيها الذين أوتوا الكتاب آمنوا بما نزلنا مصدقا لما معكم من قبل أن نطمس وجوها فنردها على أدبارها أو نلعنكم كما لأن أصحاب السبت وكان أمر الله مفعولا إن الله لا يغفر أن يشرك به ويغفر ما دون ذلك لمن يشاء ومن يشرك بالله فقد افترى اسما عظيما ألم تر إلا الذين يزكون أنفسهم بل الله يزكي من يشاء ولا يظلمون فتيلا انظر كيف يفترون على الله الكذب كفى به اسما مبينا وكفى به اسما مبينا ألم تر إلى الذين أوتوا نصيبا من الكتاب يؤمنون بالجبت والتأجت ويقولون للذين كفروا هؤلاء أحدا من الذين آمنوا سبيلا أولئك الذين لعنهم الله ومن يلعن الله ولن تجد له نصيرا أم لهم نصيب من الملك وإذا لا
يؤتون الناس نقيرا. صدق الله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أحسنت. بارك الله فيه.
We have
Next person,
9
please.
people. 9
Okay.
people remaining. If
Okay.
I can ask Hussein and Turpanjwani to go next, please.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أم يحسدون الناس على ما آتاهم الله من فضله فقد آتينا آل إبراهيم الكتاب والحكمة وآتيناهم ملكا عظيما فمنهم من آمن به ومنهم من صد عنه وكفى بجهنم سعيرا إن الذين كفروا بآياتنا سوف نصليهم نارا كلما نضجت جلودهم بدلناهم جلودا غيرها ليذوقوا العذاب إن الله كان عزيزا حكيما والذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات سندخلهم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها أبدا لهم فيها أزواج مطهرة وندخلهم ظلا ظليلا إن الله يأمركم أن تؤدوا الأمانة إلى أهلها وإذا حكمتم بين الناس أن تحكموا بالعدل إن الله نعم يعظكم به يعظكم به إن الله كان سميعا بصيرا يا أيها الذين آمنوا أطيعوا الله وأطيعوا الرسول وأولي الأمر منكم فإن تنازعتم في شيء فردوه إلى الله والرسول إن كنتم تؤمنون بالله واليوم الآخر ذلك خير وأحسن تأويلا ألم تر إلى الذين يزعمون أنهم آمنوا بما أنزل إليك وما أنزل من قبلك يريدون أن يتحاكموا إلى الطاغوت وقد أمروا أن يكفروا به ويريد الشيطان أن يزلهم ضلالا بعيدا وإذا قيل لهم تعالوا إلى ما أنزل الله وإلى الرسول رأيت المنافقين يصدون عنك صدودا فكيف إذا أصابتهم مصيبة بما قدمت أيديهم ثم جاءوك يحلفون بالله إن أردنا إلا إحسانا وتوفيقا أولئك الذين يعلم الله ما في قلوبهم فأعرض عنهم وإذهم وقل لهم في أنفسهم قولا بليغا وما أرسلنا من رسول إلا ليطاع بإذن الله
ليطاع
بإذن الله ولو أنهم إذ ظلموا أنفسهم جاءوك فاستغفروا الله واستغفر لهم رسوله لوجدوا الله
توابا رحيما.
رحيما.
صدق الله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أحسن. بارك الله فيه. Who is next?
Excellent. Can we have Muhammad Reza Mamdani next, please?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فلا وربك لا يؤمنون حتى يحكموك فيما شجر بينهم ثم لا يجدوا في أنفسهم حرجا مما قضيت ويسلموا تسليما ولو أنا كتبنا عليهم أن اقتلوا أنفسكم أو اخرجوا من دياركم ما فعلوه إلا قليل منهم ولو أنهم فعلوا ما يوعظون به لكان خيرا لهم وأشد تثبيتا وإذا لآتيناهم من لدنا أجرا عظيما ولا هديناهم صراطا مستقيما ومن يطيع الله
يطع الله.
ورسوله فأولئك مع الذين أنعم الله عليهم من النبيين والصديقين والشهداء والصالحين وحسن أولئك رفيقا ذلك الفضل من الله وكفى بالله عليما يا أيها الذين آمنوا خذوا حذركم فانفروا ثبات أو انفروا جميعا وإن منكم لمن ليبطئن فإن أصابتكم مصيبة قال قد أنعم الله علي إذ لم أكن معكم شهيدا ولئن أصابكم فضل من الله ليقولن كأن لم تكن بينكم وبينه مودة يا ليتني كنت معه فأفوز فوزا عظيما فليقاتل في سبيل الله الذين يشرون الحياة الدنيا بالآخرة ومن يقاتل في سبيل الله فيقتل أو يغلب فسوف نؤتيه أجرا عظيما وما لكم لا تقاتلون في سبيل الله والمستضعفين من الرجال والنساء والولدان الذين يقولون ربنا أخرج من هذه القرية أخرجنا من هذه القرية الظالم أهلها واجعل لنا من لدنك وليا واجعل لنا من لدنك نصيرا الذين آمنوا يقاتلون في سبيل الله والذين كفروا يقاتلون في سبيل الطاغوت فقاتلوا أولياء الشيطان إن كيد الشيطان كان ضعيفا ألم تر إلى الذين قيل لهم كفوا أيديكم وأقيموا الصلاة وآتوا الزكاة فلما كتب عليهم القتال إذا فريق منهم يخشون الناس كخشية الله أو
كخشية الله كخشية الله.
خشية الله أو أشد خشية وقالوا ربنا لما كتبت علينا القتال لولا أخرتنا إلى أجل قريب قل متاع الدنيا قليل والآخرة خير لمن اتقى ولا
لا تظلمون فتيلا. صدق الله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أحسنت.
Thank you. Rayhan, can you go next? If your dad's there, then both of you can go. Whoever wants to go first.
Assalamu alaikum.
If
عليكم
you just
السلام
pick up
ورحمة الله.
Yeah, my dad will go first.
Okay, perfect.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أينما تكونوا يدرككم الموت ولو كنتم في بروج مشيدة وإن تصبهم حسنة يقولوا هذه من عند الله وإن تصبهم سيئات يقولوا هذه سيئات يقولوا هذه من عندك كل من عند الله فما لهؤلاء القوم لا يكادون يفقهون حديثا ما أصابك من حسنة فمن الله وما أصابك من سيئات فمن نفسك سيئة فمن نفسك وأرسلناك للناس رسولا وكفى بالله شهيدا من يطع الرسول فقد أطاع الله ومن تولى فما أرسلناك عليهم حفيظا ويقولون طاعة فإذا برزوا من عندك بيت طائفة منهم غير الذي تقول والله يكتب ما يبيتون فأعرض عنهم وتوكل على الله وكفى بالله وكيلا أفلا يتدبرون القرآن ولو كان من عند غير الله لوجدوا فيه اختلافا كثيرا وإذا جاءهم أمر من الأمن أو الخوف أذاعوا به ولو ردوه إلى الرسول وإلى أولي الأمر منهم لعالمه الذين يستنبطونه منهم ولولا فضل الله عليكم ورحمته لاتبعتم الشيطان إلا قليلا فقاتل في سبيل الله لا تكلف إلا نفسك وحرز المؤمنين عسى الله أن يكف بأس الذين كفروا والله أشد بأسا وأشد تنكيلا من يشفع شفاعة حسنة يكن له نصيب منها ومن يشفع شفاعة سيئة يكون له
سيئة
سيئة يكون له كفل منها وكان الله على كل شيء مقيتا وإذا حييتم بتحية فحيوا بأحسن منها أو ردها إن الله كان على كل شيء حسيبا الله لا إله إلا هو لا يجمعنكم إلى يوم القيامة لا ريب فيه ومن أصدق من
من
الله
الله حديثا صدق الله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد أحسنت طيب الله.
We have 6
How
people
many
left.
reciters have we got?
We have 6 left.
6, okay.
Yeah, Rehan, do you want to go next?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فما لكم في المنافقين فئتين والله أركسهم بما كسبوا أتريدون أن تهتدوا من أضل الله ومن يضلل الله فلن تجد له سبيلا ودوا لو تكفرون كما كفروا فتكونون سواء فلا تتخذوا منهم أولياء حتى يهاجروا في سبيل الله فإن تولوا فخذوهم واقتلوهم حيث وجدتموهم ولا تتخذوا منهم وليا ولا نصيرا إلا الذين يصلون إلى قوم بينكم وبينهم ميثاق أو جاءوكم حسرت صدورهم أن يقاتلوكم أو يقاتلوا قومهم ولو شاء الله لسلتهم عليكم فلقاتلوكم فإن اعتزلوكم فلم يقاتلوكم وألقوا إليكم السلام فما جعل الله لكم عليهم سبيلا ستجدون آخرين يريدون أن يأمنوكم ويأمنوا قومهم كلما ردوا إلى الفتنة أركسوا فيها فإن لم يعتزلوكم ويلقوا إليكم السلام ويكفوا أيديهم فخذوهم واقتلوهم حيث ثقفتموهم وأولئكم جعلنا لكم عليهم سلطانا مبينا وما كان لمؤمن أن يقتل مؤمنا إلا خطأ ومن قتل مؤمنا خطأ فتحرير رقبة مؤمنة ودية مسلمة إلى أهله إلا أن يصدقوا فإن كان من قوم عدو لكم وهو مؤمن فتحرير رقبة مؤمنة وإن كان من قوم بينكم وبينهم ميثاق فدية مسلمة إلى أهله وتحرير رقبة مؤمنة فمن لم يجد فصيام شهرين متتابعين توبة من الله وكان الله عليما حكيما ومن يقتل مؤمنا متعمدا فجزاؤه جهنم خالدا فيها وغضب الله عليه ولعنه وأعد له
عذابا عظيما صدق الله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد أحسن طيب الله.
Thank you. We have 5 people left, and I can have Ali Mawani next, please.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا ضربتم في سبيل الله فتبينوا ولا تقولوا لمن ألقى إليكم السلام لست مؤمنا تبتغون عرض الحياة الدنيا فعند الله مغانم كثيرة كذلك كنتم من قبل فمن الله عليكم فتبينوا إن الله كان بما تعملون خبيرا لا يستوي القاعدون من المؤمنين غير أولي الضرر والمجاهدون في سبيل الله بأموالهم وأنفسهم فضل الله المجاهدين بأموالهم وأنفسهم على القاعدين درجة وكلا وعد الله الحسنى وفضل الله المجاهدين على القاعدين أجرا عظيما درجات منه ومغفرة ورحمة وكان الله غفورا رحيما إن الذين توفاهم الملائكة ظالمي أنفسهم قالوا فيما كنتم قالوا كنا مستضعفين في الأرض قالوا ألم تكن أرض الله واسعة فتهاجروا فيها فأولئك مأواهم جهنم وساءت مصيرا إلا المستضعفين من الرجال والنساء والولدان لا يستطيعون حيلة ولا يهتدون سبيلا فأولئك عسى الله أن يعفو عنهم وكان الله عفوا غفورا ومن يهاجر في سبيل الله يجد في الأرض مراغما كثيرا وسعا ومن يخرج من بيته مهاجرا إلى الله ورسوله ثم يدركه الموت فقد وقع أجره على الله وكان الله غفورا رحيما وإذا ضربتم في الأرض فليس عليكم جناح أن تقصروا من الصلاة إن خفتم أن يفتنكم الذين كفروا إن الكافرين كانوا لكم عدوا مبينا وإذا كنت فيهم فأقمت لهم الصلاة فلتقم طائفة منهم معك وليأخذوا أسلحتهم فإذا سجدوا فليكونوا من ورائكم ولتأتي طائفة أخرى لم يصلوا فليصلوا معك وليأخذوا حذرهم وأسلحتهم ود الذين كفروا لو تغفلون عن أسلحتكم وأمتعتكم فيميلون عليكم ميلة واحدة ولا جناح عليكم إن كان بكم أذى من مطر أو كنتم مرضى أن تضعوا أسلحتكم وخذوا حذركم إن الله أعد للكافرين عذابا مهينا فإذا قضيتم الصلاة فاذكروا الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبكم فإذا اطمأننتم فأقيموا الصلاة إن الصلاة كانت على
للمؤمنين كتابا موقوتا صدق الله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد أحسن طيب الله أحسنت.
Thank you. We have 4 people remaining. Can I ask Kabir and Ismail to go next, please? Kabir, are you there? Oh, no, Kabir, I don't know if he's maybe we'll come back to Kabir. We'll try Ali Zaman next week.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولا تهنوا في ابتغاء القوم إن نكونوا تعلمون فإنهم يعلمون كما تعلمون وترجون من الله ما لا يرجون وكان الله عليما حكيما إنا أنزلنا إليك الكتاب بالحق لتحكم بين الناس بما أراك الله ولا تكن
خائنين
للخائنين خصيما واستغفر الله إن الله كان غفورا رحيما ولا تجادل عن الذين يختانون أنفسهم إن الله لا يحب من كان خوانا عثيما يستخفون من الناس ولا يستخفون من الله وهو معهم إذ يبيتون ما لا يرضى من القول وكان الله بما يعملون محيطا ها أنتم هؤلاء جادلتم عنهم في الحياة الدنيا فمن يجادل الله عنهم يوم القيامة أم من يكون عليكم وكيلا ومن يعمل سوءا أو يظلم نفسه ثم يستغفر الله يجد الله غفورا رحيما ومن يكسب إثما فإنما يكسبه على نفسه وكان الله عليما حكيما ومن يكسب خطيئة أو إثما ثم يربه بريئا فقد احتمل بهتانا وإثما مبينا ولولا فضل الله عليك ورحمته لهمت طائفة منهم أن يذلك وما أن يضلوك وما يضلون إلا أنفسهم وما يضرونك من شيء وأنزل الله عليك الكتاب والحكمة وعلمك ما لم تكن تعلم وكان فضل الله عليك عظيما لا خير في كثير من نجواهم إلا من أمر بصدقة أو معروف أو إصلاحهم بين الناس ومن يفعل ذلك ابتغاء مرضات الله فسوف نؤتيه أجرا عظيما ومن يشاكك الرسول من بعد ما تبين له الهدى ويتبع غير سبيل المؤمنين نوله ما تولى ونصلح جهنم وساءت مصيرا إن الله لا يغفر أن يشرك به ويغفر ما دون ذلك لمن يشاء ومن يشرك بالله فقد ضل ضلالا بعيدا وإن يدعون من دونه إلا إناثا وإن يدعون إلا
شيطانا مريدا صدق الله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد أحسن طيب الله أحسن. How many more reciters have we got, Hasnain? You hear me, Hasnain?
Sorry, yes. We have 4 more reciters.
أحسن.
Sabir and Ismail, is your mic working?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لعنه الله وقال لأتخذن من عبادك نصيبا مفروضا مخزوزا ولا ذلنهم ولا منينهم ولا آمرنهم فلا يبتكن آذان الأنعام ولآمرنهم فليغيرن خلق الله ومن يتخذ الشيطان وليا من دون الله فقد خسر خسرانا مبينا يعدوهم ويمنيهم وما يعدوهم الشيطان إلا غرورا أولئك مأواهم جهنم ولا يجدون عنها محيصا والذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات سندخلهم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها أبدا وعد الله حقا ومن أصدق من الله قيلا ليس بأمانيكم ولا أماني أهل الكتاب من يعمل سوءا يجزى به ولا يجد له من دون الله وليا ولا نصيرا ومن يعمل من الصالحات من ذكر أو أنثى وهو مؤمن فأولئك يدخلون الجنة ولا يظلمون نقيرا ومن أحسن دينا ممن أسلم وجهه لله وهو محسن واتبع ملة إبراهيم حنيفا واتخذ الله إبراهيم خليلا ولله ما في السماوات وما في
السماوات
الأرض
في السماوات
في السماوات وما في الأرض وكان
كان الله بكل شيء محيطا صدق الله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد أحسنت أحسنت
Ahsan, we have 3 more reciters. Muzammil next, please.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ويستفتونك في النساء قل الله يفتيكم فيهن وما يتلى عليكم في الكتاب في يتامى النساء التي لا
لاتي
تؤتونهن ما كتب لهن وترغبون أن تنكحوهن والمستضعفين من الولدان وأن تقوموا لليتامى بالقسط وما تفعلوا من خير فإن الله كان به عليما وإن امرأة خافت من بعلها نشوزا أو إعراضا فلا جناها عليهما أن يصلها بينهما صلحا والصلح خير وأحضرت الأنفس الشح وإن تحسنوا وتتقوا فإن الله كان بما تعملون خبيرا ولن تستطيعوا أن تعدلوا بين النساء ولو حرصتم فلا تميلوا كل الميل فتضرها فتذروها كالمعلقة وإن تصلحوا وتتقوا فإن الله كان غفورا رحيما وإن يتفرقا يغني الله كل من ساعة وكان الله واسعا حكيما
كلا من سعته.
كلا من سعته وكان الله واسعا حكيما ولله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض ولقد وصينا الذين أوتوا الكتاب من قبلكم وإياكم أن اتقوا الله وإن تكفروا فإن الله ما في السماوات
فإن لله
وإن تكفروا فإن لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وكان الله غنيا حميدا ولله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وكفى بالله وكيلا إن يشأ يذهبكم أيها الناس ويأتي بآخرين وكان الله على ذلك قديرا من كان يريد الثواب الدنيا فعند الله ثواب الدنيا والآخرة وكان
كان
الله
الله
سميعا
سميعا
بصيرا
بصيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. صدق الله. أحسنت. How many more reciters? One more? Or?
No, the last two.
Okay.
Last two. If I can have the Bibas Sadak please to go next page.
السلام عليكم.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين بالقسط شهداء لله ولو على أنفسكم أو الوالدين والأقربين إن يكن غنيا أو فقيرا فالله أولى بهما فلا تتبعوا الهوى أن تعدلوا وإن تلووا أو تؤرضوا فإن الله كان بما تعملون خبيرا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا بالله ورسوله والكتاب الذي نزل على رسوله والكتاب الذي أنزل من قبل ومن يكفر بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله واليوم الآخر فقد ضل ضلالا بعيدا. إن الذين آمنوا ثم كفروا ثم آمنوا ثم كفروا ثم ازدادوا كفرا لم يكن الله ليغفر لهم ولا ليهديهم سبيلا. بشر المنافقين بأن لهم عذابا أليما. الذين يتخذون الكافرين أولياء من دون المؤمنين أيبتغون عندهم العزة فإن العزة لله جميعا. وقد نزل عليكم في الكتاب أن إذا سمعتم آيات الله يكفر بها ويستهزأ بها فلا تقعدوا معهم حتى يخوضوا في حديث غيره إنكم إذا مثلهم إن الله جامع المنافقين والكافرين في جهنم جميعا الذين يتربصون بكم فإن كان لكم فتح من الله قالوا ألم نكن معكم وإن كان للكافرين نصيب قالوا ألم نستحوذ عليكم ونمنعكم من المؤمنين فالله يحكم بينكم يوم القيامة ولن يجعل الله للكافرين على
المؤمنين سبيلا صدق الله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد أحسنت
And
أحسنت
thank you. We will end with our very own Muhammad Mawani, inshallah.
بسم الله
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن المنافقين يخادعون الله وهو خادعهم وإذا قاموا إلى الصلاة قاموا كسالى يراءون الناس ولا يذكرون الله إلا قليلا مذبذبين بين ذلك لا إله هؤلاء ولا إله هؤلاء ومن يضلل الله فلن تجد له سبيلا يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تتخذوا الكافرين أولياء من دون المؤمنين أتريدون أن تجعلوا لله عليكم سلطانا مبينا إن المنافقين في الدرك الأسفل من النار ولن تجد لهم نصيرا إلا الذين تابوا وأصلحوا واعتصموا بالله وأخلصوا دينهم لله فأولئك مع المؤمنين فسوف يؤتي الله المؤمنين أجرا عظيما ما يفعل الله بعذابكم إن شكرتم وآمنتم
وكان الله شاكرا عليما صدق الله العلي العظيم وصدق رسولنا الأمين الكريم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم تقبل منا فإنك أنت الغفور الرحيم وتب علينا فإنك أنت التواب الرحيم والعباد على المذنبين. Alhamdulillah, we have finished the 5th para of the Quran, and today being Saturday, the day for in the name of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we do hadiyah to our holy prophet for this particular para. To end dua of our Imam at the end of the recitation of Quran. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم إني قد قرأت ما قضيت من كتابك الذي أنزلته على نبيك الصادق صلى الله عليه وآله فلك الحمد ربنا اللهم اجعلني ممن يحل حلاله ويحرم حرامه ويؤمن بمحكمه ومتشابه واجعله لي أنسا في قبري وأنسا في حشري واجعلني ممن ترقيه بكل آية قرأها درجة في أعلى عليين آمين رب العالمين. In the name of Allah, the kind, the merciful. Ya Allah, bless Muhammad and his family. Ya Allah, I have recited what you have decreed from your book, that which you sent down to your prophet, the truthful one. May Allah's blessings be upon him and his family. So to you belongs all praises, my Lord. Ya Allah, make me from among those who enforce its obligations and disallow its forbidden acts, believe in its clear and its ambiguous verses, and make it a companion for me in my grave and a companion in my rising, and make me among those who rise for every verse recited, a rank of the most elevated. Ameen. Rabbal Alameen. At the end, before I pass on to the administrators, I'd ask you all to please join me in reciting Surah Fatiha for all our marhumin and all who are suffering from one or another illness, and particularly for Ayatollah Makarim Shirazi, who is in hospital in Qom. Al-Fatiha. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين صدق الله.
Thank you, everyone. Inshallah, we'll see you all tomorrow at 6:15 again. Dafis, everyone.
جزاكم الله.
Hafiz.
Yes.
Did you not mute it?
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا علي يا عظيم يا غفور يا رحيم، أنت الرب العظيم الذي ليس كمثله شيء وهو السميع البصير. وهذا شهر عظمته وكرمته وشرفته وفضلته على الشهور، وهو الشهر الذي فرضت صيامه عليه، وهو شهر رمضان الذي أنزلت فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان، وجعلت فيه ليلة القدر وجعلتها خيرا من 1000 شهر. فيا ذا المن ولا يمن عليك، من علي بفكاك رقبتي من النار في من تمن عليه، وأدخلني الجنة برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم أدخل على أهل القبور السرور، اللهم أغني كل فقير، اللهم أشبه كل جائع، اللهم اكسو كل أريان، اللهم اقضي دين كل مدين، اللهم فرج عن كل مكروب، اللهم رد كل غريب، اللهم فك كل عسير، اللهم أصلح كل فاسد من أمور المسلمين، اللهم اشفي كل مريض، اللهم سد فقرنا بغناك، اللهم غير سوء أهالنا بحسن حالك، اللهم اقض عنا الدين وأغننا من الفقر إنك على كل شيء قدير. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم رب الشهر رمضان الذي أنزلت فيه القرآن وافترضت على عبادك فيه الصيام، صل على محمد وآل محمد وارزقني حج بيتك الحرام في عام هذا وفي كل عام، واغفر لتلك الذنوب العظام فإنه لا يغفرها غيرك يا رحمن يا علام. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أفتتح الثناء بحمدك وأنت مسدد للثواب بمنك، وأيقنت أنك أنت أرحم الراحمين في موضع العفو والرحمة، وأشد المعاقبين في موضع النكال والنقمة، وأعظم المتجبرين في موضع الكبرياء والعظمة. اللهم أذنت لي في دعائك ومسألتك، فاسمع يا سميع مدهتي، وعجب يا رحيم دعوتي، وأخل يا غفور عثرتي. فكم يا إلهي من كربة قد فرجتها، وهموم قد كشفتها، وأثرة قد أقلتها، ورحمة قد نشرتها، وهلقة بلاء قد فككتها. الحمد لله الذي لم يتخذ صاحبة ولا ولدا، ولم يكن له شريك في الملك، ولم يكن له ولي من الذل، وكبره تكبيرا. الله أكبر. الحمد لله بجميع محامده كلها على جميع نعمه كلها. الحمد لله الذي لا مضاد له في ملكه ولا منازع له في أمره. الحمد لله الذي لا شريك له في خلقه ولا شبيه له في عظمته. الحمد لله الفاشي في الخلق أمره، وحمده الظاهر بالكرم مجده، الباسط بالجود يدا، الذي لا تنقص قضائنه ولا تزيده كثرة العطاء إلا جودا وكرما، إنه هو العزيز الوهاب. اللهم إني أسألك قليلا من كثير ما حاجة بي إليه عظيما، وغناك عنه قديم، وهو عندي كثير، وهو عليك سهل يسير. اللهم إن أفوق عن ذنبي، وتجاوزك عن خطيئتي، وصفحك عن ظلمي، وسترك على قبيح عملي، وهلمك عن كثير جرمي، عندما كان من خطئي وأمدي. أتمعني في أن أسألك ما لا أستوجبه منك، الذي رزقتني من رحمتك وأريتني من قدرتك وعرفتني من إجابتك، فسرت أدعوك آمنا وأسألك مستعنسا لا خائفا ولا وجلا، مدلا عليك فيما قصدت فيه إليك، فإن أبت عني أتبت بجهلي عليك، ولعل الذي أبت عني هو خير لي لعلمك بعاقبة الأمور، فلا أرى مولا كريما أصبر على عبد النعيم منك علي. يا ربي إنك تدعوني فأولي عنك وتتهبب إلي فأتبغض إليك، وتتودد إلي فلا أقبل منك، كأن لي التطول عليك، فلم يمنعك ذلك من رحمتي لي والإحسان إلي والتفضل علي بجودك وكرمك، فارحم عبدك الجاهل وجد عليه بفضل إحسانك، إنك جواد كريم. الحمد لله مالك الملك مجري الفلك مسخخ الرياح فالك الإسباح ديان الدين رب العالمين. الحمد لله على علمه بعد علمه، والحمد لله على عفوه بعد قدرته، والحمد لله على طول عناته في غضبه وهو قادر على ما يريد. الحمد لله خالق الخلق باسط الرزق فالق الإسباح ذي الجلال والإكرام والفضل والإنعام، الذي بعد فلا يرى وقرب فشهد النجوى تبارك وتعالى. الحمد لله الذي ليس له منازع يعادله ولا شبيه يشاكله ولا ظهير يعاضده، قهر بعزته العزة وتواضع لعظمته العظمى فبلغ بقدرته ما يشاء. الحمد لله الذي يجيبني حين أنادي ويستر علي كل عورة وأنا عاسي، ويعظم النعمة علي فلا أجازي، فكم من موهبة حنيعة قد أعطاني وعظيمة مخوفة قد قفاني، وبهجة مونقة قد أراني، فأثني عليه هامدا واذكره مصبها. الحمد لله الذي لا يهتق حجابه ولا يغلق بابه ولا يرد السائل ولا يخيب آمله. الحمد لله الذي يؤمن الخائفين وينجي الصالحين ويرفع المستضعفين ويضع المستكبرين ويهلك ملوكا ويستخلف آخرين. والحمد لله قاصم الجبارين مبير الظالمين مدرك الهاربين نكال الظالمين صريخ المستصرخين موضع هاجات الطالبين معتمد المؤمنين. الحمد لله الذي من خشيته ترعد السماء وسقانها وترجف الأرض وأمارها وتموج البحار ومن يسبح في غمراتها. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. الحمد لله الذي يخلق ولم يخلق ويرزق ولا يرزق ويطعم ولا يطعم ويميت الأحياء ويحيي الموتى وهو حي لا يموت بيده الخير وهو على كل شيء قدير. اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك وعمينك وصفيك وحبيبك وخيرتك من خلقك وحافظ سرك ومبلغ رسالاتك أفضل وأحسن وأجمل وأكمل وأزكى وأنمى وأطيب وأطهر وأسنى وأقطر ما صليت وباركت وترحمت وتحننت وصلمت على عهد من عبادك وأنبيائك ورسلك وصفتك وأهل الكرامة عليك من خلقك. اللهم وصل على علي أمير المؤمنين ووصي رسول رب العالمين عبدك ووليك وأخي رسولك وهجتك على خلقك وآيتك الكبرى والنبع العظيم. وصل على صديقة الطاهرة فاطمة الزهراء سيدة النساء العالمين. وصل على سبتي الرحمة وإمامي الهدى الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة. وصل على أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والخلف الهادي المهدي حججك على عبادك وأمنائك في بلادك صلاة كثيرة دائمة. اللهم وصل على ولي أمرك القائم المعمل وعدل المنتظر وهفه بملائكتك المقربين وأيده بروح القدس يا رب العالمين. اللهم اجعله الداعية إلى كتابك والقائم بدينك استخلفه في الأرض كما استخلفت الذين من قبله. مكن له دينه الذي ارتضيته له أبدله من بعد خوفه أمنا يعبدك لا يشرك بك شيئا. اللهم أعزه وعزز به وانصره وانتصر به وانصره نصرا عضيدا وافتح له فتحا يسيرا واجعل له من لدنك سلطانا نصيرا. اللهم أظهر به دينك وسنة نبيك حتى لا يستخفي بشيء من الحق مخافة أحد من الخلق. اللهم إنا نرغب إليك في دولة قريما تعذ بها الإسلام وأحلى وتضل بها النفاق وأحلى وتجعلنا فيها من الدعاة إلى طاعتك والقادة إلى سبيلك وترزقنا بها كرامة الدنيا والآخرة. اللهم ما عرفتنا من الحق فهملنا وما قصرنا عنه فبلغنا. اللهم المم به شعثنا وشعب به صدعنا وارتك به فتقنا وقصر به قلتنا وأعذذ به ذلتنا وأقن به آئلنا واقض به آن مغرمنا واجبر به فقرنا وسد به خلتنا ويسر به أسرنا وبيض به وجوهنا وفقر به أسرنا وعنجه به تلبتنا وعنجز به مواعيدنا واستجب به دعوتنا وعتنا به سعلنا وبلغنا به من الدنيا والآخرة آمالنا وعتنا به فوق رغبتنا يا خير المسؤولين وأوسع المؤتين. اشف به صدورنا واذهب به غيظ قلوبنا واهدنا به لما اختلف فيه من الحق بإذنك إنك تهدي من تشاء إلى صراط مستقيم. وانصرنا به على عدوك وعدونا إله الحق آمين. اللهم إنا نشكو إليك فقد نبينا صلواتك عليه وآله وغيبة ولينا وكثرة عدونا وقلة عددنا وشدة الفتن بنا وتظاهر الزمان علينا. فصل على محمد وآله وعنا على ذلك بفتح منك تعجله وبذر تكشفه ونصر تعزه وسلطان حق تظهره ورحمة منك تجللناها وآفية منك تلبسناها برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم برحمتك في الصالحين فأدخلنا وفي عليين فارفعنا وبكأس من معين من عين سلسبيل فاسقنا ومن الهور العين برحمتك فزوجنا ومن الولدان المخلدين كأنهم لؤلؤ مكنون فأختمنا ومن ثمار الجنة ولهم الطير فأطعمنا ومن ثياب السندس والحرير والاستبرق فألبسنا وليلة القدر وحج بيتك الحرام وقتلا في سبيلك فوفق لنا وصالح الدعاء والمسألة فاستجب لنا. وإذا جمعت الأولين والآخرين يوم القيامة فارحمنا وبراءة من النار فاكتب لنا وفي جهنم فلا تغلنا وفي عذابك وهوانك فلا تبتلنا ومن الزقوم والضريء فلا تطعمنا ومع الشياطين فلا تجعلنا وفي النار على وجوهنا فلا تكببنا ومن ثياب النار وسرابيل القطران فلا تلبسنا ومن كل سوء يا لا إله إلا أنت بحق لا إله إلا أنت فنجنا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك أن تجعل فيما تقضي وتقدر من الأمر المحتوم في الأمر الحكيم من القضاء الذي لا يرد ولا يبدل أن تكتبني من حجاج بيتك الحرام المبرور هجهم المشكور سعيهم المغفور ذنوبهم المكفر عن سيئاتهم وأن تجعل فيما تقضي وتقدر أن تطيل أمري في خير وآفية وتوسع في رزقي وتجعلني ممن تنتصر به لدينك ولا تستبدل بغيري. أعوذ بجلال وجهك الكريم أن ينقضي عني شهر رمضان أو يطلع الفجر من ليلتي هذه ولق قبلي تبعة أو ذنب تعذبني عليه.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Our viewers, dear brothers, sisters and wonderful children, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to HICTV in Peterborough for tonight's live program on soul food, Ramadan and nutrition. You have joined our live talk show and Q&A, and I will shortly introduce our guest. Thank you to everyone who has sent in questions. There is a number on your screen. Please do send in if you have any questions that you would like answered. Send them in now. We still may have time to answer your question. Now, I was actually quite surprised at the topic I was asked to cover tonight. I mean, who loves delicious foods in Ramadan that, let's be honest, do consist of fried foods, to the most delicious and succulent round of desserts. And there is literally just enough space to fit in a nice Caesar salad dressed in Caesar dressing. Some of us binge eat, some of us go healthy, some of us eat throughout the night. But what really is the right balance? Because we realize that what we eat and drink doesn't just affect us physically, but mentally and spiritually. So let's welcome our guest. This evening we have Sister Ilham Gokal. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.
Firstly, a sincere thank you for joining our show this evening. It is a great pleasure having you here today. So,
thank you for having me as well.
So viewers, Ilham is a registered dietitian with a bachelor's degree in nutrition and has a master's degree in dietetics, both from the King's College in London. Ilham has a passion for bettering nutrition within our ethnic minority communities, particularly the South Asian and Middle Eastern community. During the past few years, she has been involved with our sister Jamaat Stanmore for the Inspirational Minds. And this is discussing healthy eating habits with youngsters, helping in virtual presentations during the coronavirus pandemic, and providing nutritional advice to Stanmore and Haydari mosque members. Also with this, she also has an interest in eating disorders, works with eating disorder charity Beat 2. Ilham has spent time working in Guy's and St Thomas's Hospital in London with chronic conditions such as type 2 diabetes, malnutrition, kidney disease, and so much more. And as a qualified dietitian, Ilham is aware of addressing nutritional needs within our communities during the holy month of Ramadan. So, just before we go to Sister Ilham, we have received messages to give out shout-outs to people watching around the world, in Toronto, Canada, Switzerland, and as far as Australia. So welcome. It is great that you've been able to join us. So Ilham, tell me, a balanced diet is a mandazi in both hands, right?
Yes, of course. Ideally, a balanced diet should be what we're having sort of before Ramadan and also during the holy month of Ramadan as well. It consists of carbohydrates, protein, fruits and vegetables, and also dairy and other dairy alternatives as well. If we start with carbohydrates, they should sort of take up around 1/3 to 1/4 of your plate. This can be like bread, pasta, rice, potatoes, and if possible, we should opt for like the brown varieties as well. The carbohydrates sort of give you the energy that you need throughout the day, and the fibrous qualities will also keep you full for longer. And then we have protein. So in terms of protein, these are like your meats, your fish, your chicken, eggs, and lentils and beans for your vegetarian options as well. And if we're looking at meats, then we should really be opting for the leaner cuts as well when we go to the butchers. Protein helps us maintain our muscle mass, and it is the building blocks of our muscles. So it's important to keep enough protein within our daily sort of eating meals as well. And for reference, if you take your palm, it should really be about this sort of size, your palm size on your plate. And then in terms of your fruits and vegetables, these provide fiber to you. Fiber will help you stay full during the day and also during your fast. And this, we should be sort of having 5 a day of these fruits and vegetables, ideally 3 vegetables and 2 pieces of fruit a day. So that's kind of what consists of a balanced diet.
So that's perfect. Thank you so much for that. So it gives us a bit of an idea of a balanced diet during Ramadan. But really, I think one thing that the viewers would really like to know is what is the best thing that we should be eating during suhoor? What is that for you? What does that look like to you?
Yeah, sure. So in the UK, we're fasting pretty long fast still, around 16, 17 hours. The time is going to increase and the temperatures will probably also rise towards the end of the month as well. So what we really want to be having is making sure that we're having foods which will keep us full for as long as possible, but which will also be as nutritious as possible. And we want to minimize the risk of sort of getting dehydrated and having headaches and constipation, etc. So the kind of foods that we should be looking at are, again, like I said, the starchy carbohydrates. So these could be, for example, your porridge oats with some milk to give you the fluid for the day, maybe topped with some fruit, maybe yogurt on the side, or if you want, maybe a couple of eggs with some seeded bread. Try and avoid any kind of salty foods like olives or hard cheeses, because the salt in these foods will cause you to have immediate pangs of thirst, and this will increase during the day as well. And then just make sure you have your protein, as this will help maintain the muscle mass and also keep you full for the rest of the day.
Okay, so that sounds absolutely amazing. But one thing that I would like to ask is, what about the night before's food? You know, you've got the odd batitawara or samosa that is left over, because usually at that time of the morning it is just me, my samosa and my chai. So what do you think about that? Am I able to just have a couple here and there?
Yeah, for sure. So I completely agree that, you know, during Ramadan it's really difficult to finish all the food that we have during our iftar time, and we usually have some leftovers for sahri, especially like some fried foods and some fried bits here and there. it's definitely okay to eat a limited or a moderate portion of these fried foods, but I would recommend not going over the top. For sure, minimize as much as you can, and also look for alternative cooking methods. So, for example, where possible, if you can shallow fry these foods instead of deep frying them, or if you could air fry them instead of shallow frying them or grilling them, for example. These foods are really tempting, and so be realistic in the goals you set yourself, because I also always give in spring rolls are my weakness, and so if you're feeling like something, you have been fasting for a full day, but just sort of limit the amount you're having, maybe, is what I would say. Sorry. In terms of fried foods as well, it's really easy to overconsume these foods, and this can also lead to weight gain during the month, and heartburn. So again, just keep this to a limit.
Okay, thank you very much. So when we are looking at, for example, the next part of opening our fast, I've just had a question that has come through. Are you going to be telling us not to eat a lot of fried food? What is a good iftar, and how should we be doing really an iftar?
Yeah, sure. So in terms of iftar, again, we've been fasting for a really long time, for 16, 17 hours. Our body has now gone into the sort of fasting mode. We're probably very dehydrated at this point, and it's really important to replenish all the stores that we've lost. But it's also very easy to get bloated very quickly. So I would say, like, the probably most ideal iftar would be you sit down, have maybe a couple of dates, have some water to hydrate yourself again, and maybe some soup or fruit. Maybe then take a break, go pray namaz, read some Quran, and come back, and then you have your main meal. With your main meal, again, I'd sort of follow the standard balanced diet. So again, a quarter of a plate could be like your rice or your potato or something, and then you could have, again, that palm-sized portion of protein. So this could be like dal or chicken, and maybe in the form of like a curry or a stew, and that will also give you some fluid as well.
So for me,
Then half of your plate. That's okay.
So for me, this is quite hard to hear, because I mean, I'm not sure about all of our viewers, but I certainly, as soon as we are opening our fast, we've recited our salah, we open our fast with a date, and the first thing you do is see a lovely table full of samosa and batitawar and kachori, and all you want to do is just to be able to have a bit of chutney, fill your plate, and you're going straight there. But what you're describing is to kind of stage that as much as obviously making that as healthy as possible, because from what I can see, this is how we have grown up, in terms of ensuring that it's like a main meal, isn't it? You're going straight away for the main meal, and not having your breaks. And not only do you have your side dishes, you then also have your main meal too, like you've mentioned, with your salad or whatever it might be. And I'm not going to lie, there are times where obviously you do feel bloated, and you do get to a point in your life where you think, okay, I am going to maybe not eat as much as what I normally do, so that I don't get that bloated feeling. What would you say about that, in terms of what has changed for us to have to do that now?
I think Ramadan is all about sort of setting new habits. Ramadan, to me, it's not just about sort of fasting for like 16, 17 hours. There's also the massive spiritual side of it as well. And I think the sort of motivation to maybe eat healthy it could definitely be sort of the physical changes it can have for you, but for me, it's also being able to make the most out of this month. Like, I know in the past when I've overeaten at iftar, or I've had too much, I'm feeling really lethargic, and after iftar all I want to do is like roll in bed and sleep and scroll on my phone and on my social media pages. But if I was to maybe pace myself and maybe take it a little bit easier, slow down with my food, that would actually allow me to then go and maybe, pray more Quran, maybe listen to some more lectures, or actually really indulge in the spiritual aspect and atmosphere of this month. And I think that maybe could be the motivating factor for us instead. And I think also, once we've been fasting for so long, it's important to sit back and just savor our food. So definitely enjoy yourself and enjoy the foods that you're eating, have realistic goals, but just have a balance in how quickly you're eating, and also look at the spiritual side as well.
I think one of the main issues is that we have such short time, so we have our iftar, and of course we want to space as much of it out as we can, but we're also conscious of time. You know, people work, and we have to just make sure that we have enough time to do that. So I suppose not everybody has that luxury to be able to space things out. You really just want to eat, have a bit of digestion there, and then also, you know, be able to fit in your dessert before you manage to get some sleep for the night. So, and I know I keep mentioning dessert, but that is really my soft point of Ramadan. There always has to be something sweet. So based on talking about sweet things, we've just received a question from a 9-year-old, and she says, can we eat halal Haribo sweets in Ramadan? Is there going to be any effect to my body?
Yeah, if they're halal, then definitely you can definitely eat them. And Haribos, yeah, by all means, have some sweet foods, that's okay. Just limit the amount you're having. The reason why just generally we're sort of so cautious about sweet foods is because of, I'd like to say 3 reasons. Number 1, it can lead to like weight gain over time, and it's really easy to overconsume sweet foods and sweet drinks because they're not really very filling usually. Like for example, yesterday I was sitting at the dinner table and I had something similar to a pack of sweet foods next to me, and it's really easy to just keep sliding your hand in, picking one up and just snacking on them subconsciously. So maybe just limit yourself to how many you're having. So weight gain, but also number 2, it can also lead to dental caries as well, and that's a really big sort of side effect that sugar has, especially if once you're now an adult and you have your adult teeth. We have these teeth for literally the rest of our life, so we have to take care of them now. And then lastly as well, sugar is also is one of the main causes of type 2 diabetes, and especially if you're coming from like a South Asian descent or a Middle Eastern descent, our ethnicities are predisposed to developing conditions like type 2 diabetes, so we need to be extra careful. So definitely enjoy yourself again, have a couple of Haribos. It would be better to have these Haribos with your main meal instead of later when you're sitting alone and having it on its own. This is because the sort of saliva and the bacteria will help digest at the main meal rather than later when you're having them on its own. So yeah, just in moderation, I would say.
Okay, so that's brilliant. So just to make it clear, because I don't want to disappoint any of the children out there, because one of the things that we do have here when we are open is a tuck shop, and we do have our sweets to give to children, but obviously also don't want to disappoint my broadcasting team, because we also have packs of sweets and gummies here too to kind of get us through the night. So are you saying that as long as it's balanced and we have minimal amount, it is okay?
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the best ways to sort of curb any sweet cravings we may get during this month is to just be prepared. So if in advance you're able to chop up some fruit and keep it in the fridge and take it out and leave it on the table during iftar time, so then you're reaching for fruit instead of sweets, and that's a really good way. Or for example, if you feel like snacking on something, maybe some nuts which have healthy fats in them would help better than snacking on small pieces of sweets instead as well.
Thank you very much for that. Just leading on from the sweet stuff to another interesting question that we've just received. For someone who has a what is the deal with energy drinks? Are these good for us to keep us going? And I suppose people are talking about the energy drinks that have the caffeine inside, things like the Red Bull and the Monster drinks, etc. Are these something, especially I suppose for shift workers too, but you know, those who are kind of studying for exams, maybe having to go to school, might want to stay up and therefore might hit themselves with an energy drink. What's your advice on energy drinks?
Energy drinks, if I'm being quite frank, they're not great for you because they have lots of sugar in them. For example, we're only allowed around 30 grams of sugar per day, and energy drink will probably have around 35 grams of sugar in it, if not more. So they're really bad for your teeth. They will also lead to weight gain as well. There have been quite a lot of studies which have shown that teenagers who have high intakes of energy drinks will then have increased risk of developing obesity later in life. I think the way to sort of combat this, or if you do feel like you're going to be up studying late at night, I would say probably just make sure you're having a lot of water, because water will increase your concentration and your alertness as well. And I think once you get addicted to a caffeine source like an energy drink or a coffee, for example, it can be kind of hard to then decrease your consumption without getting withdrawal symptoms as well, like headaches or stomach aches, or decreased sort of alertness or concentration as well. So I think try and find some other sources to keep you awake. Maybe keeping a window open for ventilation is also something really handy I used to do when I was studying, or again like water, or just snacking on healthy fruits and vegetables as well.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you. So here is another question that we have received. For someone who is who has a busy day, such as a key worker, what kind of foods should they be consuming at suhoor and at iftar? And I suppose what they're probably getting at is what's going to last them longer to get through the day.
Yeah. So I think at Sahri time, what we mentioned was maybe having more fiber. So fiber is kind of all of those whole grain foods you get. So like seeded bread or like porridge, which retains water, so it can also help keep the water within your body throughout the day. And also protein would also be filling as well. So you want a balanced diet. So fiber with some protein, like for example, yogurt at Sahri time, or some eggs to help you keep full and to keep your muscle mass would be great. I think try and maybe decrease the amount of caffeine you have, because this can lead to sort of trouble sleeping, and also may lead to, sometimes it can have an anecdotal diuretic effect, where you may need to use the bathroom more and need to increase thirst as well. And then in terms of iftar, I would say, again, fiber and protein are your best friends during this month, because they really do have such an amazing effect, and you'll see the difference once you increase fiber. And then we said protein, so again, your sources of meat and chicken and fish.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you so much for that. So here we have another question. How can I lose weight in a healthy way during Ramadan?
Sure. So a lot of people begin this month wanting to lose some weight. You have 30 days, which you'll be fasting. So it seems like a pretty good time to lose weight. As it is, you're only probably going to consume 1 or 2 meals a day as opposed to 3. So the likelihood is that you'll probably be consuming less food than you would otherwise. So I wouldn't say to actually reduce your portion size at all. I think the best bet would be to increase the amount of fruits and vegetables you're having, because these have lower amounts of energy, but they'll make you full, and then just reduce the amount of carbohydrate you're having. So make sure it's maybe about 1/4 of the plate instead. And I think if you feel like you're not losing weight during the month of Ramadan, and that is your aim or your goal, then there could be a couple of reasons. Your weight is usually determined by sort of the amount of energy you're intaking through your food, so your calories that you're having from your food, and also the amount of energy you're burning through physical activity and exercise. So during the month of Ramadan, if you feel like you're not using or losing any weight, it could be because you're maybe not moving around as much, especially during the coronavirus pandemic. If you may be working from home, you may be having a lot less physical activity. So I would say maybe try and go for a short walk after iftar. Or if you feel like you're not losing weight, it could also be because you could be snacking on high fat foods, like those spring rolls, the pakoras and the bhajiyas that we spoke about before as well. So maybe just limit those and reduce those instead.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for that. This leads on to another question that we have received. If I'm trying to gain weight in a healthy way, this is a 2-part question. What kind of food should I be consuming during this month? So this is more about gaining weight. in a healthy way?
Yeah. So I think again, some people have their goal to gain weight, maybe for to build muscle, for example, during this month. And the easiest way to do that, I think, would be to supplement your foods. So we mentioned earlier the sort of basic carbohydrate, protein, and your fiber and your fruit and vegetables. But if we supplement our foods, we can then have an increased calorie intake, and we won't actually be eating much more. So by this I mean, for example, using like nuts to sprinkle over your food or in your salads, or using like extra virgin olive oil as a dressing in your salad, yogurt, maybe putting some nut butters on your toast. You're not actually eating a lot more, but your calorie intake will be more, and you will see an increase in your weight, but it will be done in a healthy way. So for example, we have healthy sources of fats from, for example, avocados, extra virgin olive oil, and also nuts, and this can help you increase your energy intake and also your weight as well.
Okay, so brilliant. This is another question that we've got with regards to muscle mass. How do I avoid losing muscle mass? And I'm still going to the gym. Is it better to go before Maghrib or after?
I wish I had the same motivation to go to the gym during Ramadan. I think it's really great that people are still keeping active and are training during this month, because it's something I feel a bit lazy to do sometimes. Especially now that gyms are open, you have sort of full use to use your gym if it's 24/7. You have flexibility. You could either go before iftar or after. If you're going before, I would say go as close to iftar time as you can. This way you can actually sort of replenish the stores of any depleted nutrient stores you can replenish as soon as possible. And if you're going after iftar, then you would have just eaten, so hopefully it would compensate as well. In terms of the food that you should be eating, I think you should make sure you take a water bottle with you. If you're going after, just make sure you keep sipping on some water, because you don't want to get dehydrated. And maybe take some snacks with you as well, again, like some yogurt with some nuts or fruits, or an energy bar or something, just to replenish yourself. I think that would be.
Okay, so another question that we've had, I suppose, as it's to do with muscle mass and weight. This has just come in. Why am I not losing weight in Ramadan despite eating less?
So I think we briefly touched on this before. It is a common sort of problem and query that I think I've had a lot of people say before, and it usually is because we're not really moving around much. Like I just said, I feel really lazy during the day sometimes, and it's really easy to just come home and nap once you've finished your work, and that's fine as well, because you need your adequate sleep, especially if you're having abnormal sleep patterns during this month. But I think if you can maybe slip in like a 20-minute walk somewhere, a half an hour walk. If you're going after iftar, I think maybe go with a friend or some family, or if you're going before iftar, then that would be great as well, because we're probably not moving around as much during this time. And then I would also say just make sure or watch what you're snacking on, or what you're drinking as well. So if you're drinking a can of Coke, maybe switch from a full sugar can of Coke to a Diet Coke instead, because this can have a big difference in terms of your calorie intake, and your weight really is determined by what you eat minus how much energy you're expending as well.
I have got a question in relation to that, actually. So we're talking about, say, for example, full-fat Pepsi, or you've got your Diet Pepsi, or whatever it might be. But isn't it right that obviously the full-fat Pepsi, it's got the sugars that are really bad for you, but the diet one isn't as good. It still has the sugars that perhaps aren't so good. So if you drink many cans per day, or many bottles per day, does that balance it out?
So just to sort of speak about the full sugar versus the Diet Coke, I think some people are dubious to drink maybe the Diet Coke because they say they do have artificial sweeteners in them, like for example stevia or sucralose or xylitol. And there are some concerns around the safety regarding these artificial sweeteners. These artificial sweeteners have gone through rigorous testing by the EU. They have passed all of the sort of checks and tests and everything, so they're absolutely safe to consume. If you are someone who consumes a lot of Coke each day, maybe even if it's just 2 cans a day, it's still quite a large amount. Switching from a full sugar Coke to a 0 sugar Coke will make a massive difference, and you will be able to see a difference in your weight as well. I think artificial sweeteners probably are just kind of like a short-term solution, I'd say, because sugar can be a little bit addictive. And so I think hopefully with time the idea would be to kind of wean yourself off of Coke or fizzy drinks or sugar as a general, but artificial sweeteners are a good short-term solution.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Ilham. I've got another question that's just come in. Salaam alaikum. I have 2 questions for the show tonight. My name is Abbas. In this weather, I have very bad allergies in the daytime, despite taking antihistamines in the night. People say that there are natural food remedies to help with this. What can I do for this?
Yeah, I completely relate to that. Hay fever is picking up, and it's the season for it to pick up, and it can be really annoying during the fast especially. If you aren't taking your antihistamine at Sehri time, I would 100% recommend that, taking your antihistamine at Sehri time, and also just making sure you're meeting your requirements of vitamins and minerals each day. So you can do this by making sure you're having your 5 a day. This would be like 3 portions of vegetables maybe at iftar time, and then like 2 portions at Sehri time. Some natural remedies are, for example, honey, which is spoken a lot about in the Quran, can have a good impact on hay fever. And again, some anecdotal and old wives' tales which have been passed down by generations are also using turmeric or haldi in our foods, or with honey as well to help clear our sinuses as well. So I think that would probably work.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So we have another question, and I think this one actually is quite an important one, and it's to do with drinking water. How can we keep hydrated during the day if we're not able to drink? Like, what is it that we can do? And I suppose this question relates to those who don't drink enough, and sometimes I've suffered headaches and migraines during the day, especially on hot days, purely because I haven't drank enough the night before.
Completely. Again, fasts are really long right now. They're around 16 hours long, and you've gone without any kind of hydration during that time. So it's easy to suffer from dehydration and suffer from the effects of dehydration, like the headaches and the constipation that you had mentioned. So how we can actually combat this would be having as much water as we can during the hours that we are awake. So for example, maybe having 1 glass every hour during the time we're awake, having foods which are rich in fluids like our soups, our curries, and also our stews, because this will also increase the amount of fluid that is reaching our body. I think sort of leaning off of having too much caffeine and maybe focusing on these water instead, as well as milk, which is high in calcium and also protein, and also some fruit juice as well, can be quite nutritious. I think also, yeah, I think that's about it. Water. I can't hear.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Okay. Yeah,
okay,
it's
sorry
back
about
now.
that. Okay, so we've got the connection back. I was just saying thank you very much for that. And I'm glad that we're still talking about sort of the hydration, etc. Because I know I used to be the kind of person that never used to like drinking water, so I'd always have to put something in it, you know, some orange squash or whatever it might be. But now I think we've got to a stage where we're talking about having you know, tea and coffee, sometimes not as a replacement, but, you know, just to keep you going during the day. Is that acceptable, for example? And then I have another question about chai as well, after.
Yeah, sure. Personally, I'm someone who can't go without 1 cup of tea a day. Like, I need it to sort of feel awake and really give me some energy and wake myself up. So I tend to have that cup of tea. If I'm fasting, I tend to have it at iftar instead of during my usual breakfast time, and that's fine. If you're usually someone who drinks some caffeine and you feel like you can't really go without it, that is okay. But I would say try and limit yourself to 1 cup a day. This is mostly because tea and coffee and other caffeinated drinks like Coke and fizzy drinks can have these substances called tannins within them, and tannins can sort of stop the absorption of nutrients like iron, for example. So if you are having a caffeinated drink, maybe have it, maybe limit yourself to 1 cup a day, and maybe have it during a time when you're not actually having your food. So for me, for example, maybe that would be maybe an hour after iftar rather than with my iftar itself. I think going forward, if you can, in like the within the next year, closer to Ramadan, it may help to wean yourself off of these caffeinated drinks. It'll be better to wean yourself off, because if you completely cold cut it, sometimes you can exhibit caffeine withdrawal symptoms like headaches or stomach aches, and that's not really what you want. You will find though that within like a couple of days of fasting or after a week, there is usually a rise in a set of hormones called endorphins, and this will increase your level of alertness. So you may not actually need your caffeinated drinks to feel alert and awake anymore.
Is it safe to fast with diabetes? And also, please, can you advise what foods are suitable for type 1 diabetes with daily insulin shots? I'm not sure whether that is something you'd be able to answer, but it's coming.
Yeah, sure. So type 2 diabetes is very prevalent within our community, and we are predisposed to type 2 diabetes, as I previously mentioned, and type 1 diabetes can also be quite common as well. So if you do have diabetes, it would probably be best to speak to your GP about whether it would be safe for you to fast or not during this month. God is all merciful, and if it is dangerous for you to fast, then you will be exempt from fasting. If after speaking to your doctor, you and your doctor have maybe decided that it's okay for you to fast, and you've maybe tailored your medication, then I think then that's fine. You can go ahead and fast. I would just be aware of maybe having hypoglycemias during the day. So if you feel dizzy or faint, then it's possible you could be suffering from a hypoglycemia. So just maybe carry some sweets with you or a sugary drink just in case. During Ramadan, obviously, when we're fasting, our blood glucose will drop during the period of the actual fast, and then can rapidly increase once we've had our iftar. So it's important to keep these stable as much as possible. So the way to do this would be maybe having, again, fiber, because this will slow the absorption of sugar into our blood vessels and keep us within more of a sort of flat range. And I think this is also applicable maybe to like the Eid kind of time as well. If you're diabetic, and there are so many lovely, amazing, tasty foods around you and sweet foods, then again, be realistic and have small portions of these, limit yourselves, and have enough fiber to then sort of slow the absorption of these foods into your blood as well.
Thank you very much for that. So it seems like we've talked a lot about sugar today, and I think that's obviously everyone's favorite. But a question has come in, but what about salt? Should we be cutting this down in Ramadan?
Yeah. So I think salt is one of those things where we should be cutting or trying to cut down just generally. I think we do consume too much salt, and salt does lead to chronic health conditions like increased blood pressure, for example. So the sort of government guidelines on salt is around 6 grams a day, and this is about 1 teaspoon of salt a day. And this includes, for example, the salt that you put in cooking, the salt that is on the table, and salt in any other convenience foods that you may be purchasing as well. And it is important to sort of, again, wean yourself down, be realistic with how much you're having and how much you're cutting down. For example, if you're not having, or if you're trying to cut down the salt in your cooking, then maybe don't remove your table salt yet. And then once you finish sort of weaning down on your cooking salt, maybe then focus on taking away the table salt that you're adding. Don't forget that there's also the salt in convenience foods that we mentioned, like for example, like popcorn or crisps or any of those fried foods that we may be eating. So just again, minimize the amount you're having. And if you are having it during the month of Ramadan, maybe try not to have so much during Sahri time, because this can lead to like immediate feelings of thirst and will dehydrate you further during the actual fast as well.
Perfect, thank you for that. So we've just literally got a few more minutes, and before we end, I'd really like this question answered because we've received quite a number of them. Taking vitamins, will these help us in Ramadan? And another question I'll just add to that as well is, what about things like baraka and effervescence, to have those at suhoor so that our body is nourished throughout the day?
Yes. So vitamins and minerals, or the supplements that we get, like the multivitamins, there's not really any guidelines about us needing them each day. They're sort of there in case we feel like our diet isn't adequate or providing us with the right amounts of vitamins and minerals. If you are eating like a balanced diet, you should be having the recommended amounts of vitamins and minerals within your diet. But if you feel like maybe your diet isn't quite balanced there yet, or especially if during the month of Ramadan you feel like, you know, you may be lacking a little bit, then it's okay for you to have a supplement each day. That's fine. And in terms of something like baraka provides the body with vitamin B. This is energy releasing. Again, it won't really have any harm if you do have it at a Sahri time. So that's okay. There is a government guideline though to have one supplement of vitamin D each day. That's around 10 micrograms, especially as ladies, if you wear hijab, you may not be getting as much sort of vitamin D from the sun. And if you're spending a lot of the time inside, then you won't be getting vitamin D either. Maybe do look into getting a vitamin D supplement.
Brilliant, thank you very much for that. We've literally got 1 more minute, and I really wanted this one answered. I was speaking to a few people the other day about the type of tea that we drink. Is there a difference? Is it going to make a difference whether we have kettle tea or ukareli tea? I know that sounds silly, but you know the amount of milk that we put in, how it's boiled, etc., and then we want to put a bit more sugar in. Is there a difference between a kettle tea and a ukareli tea? Can we have that answered in literally a minute?
Yeah, sure. So I think kettle tea is like the standard sort of British breakfast tea, and then like you have your karak masala chai, which may be using like a tinned milk, and may also typically have a little bit more sugar than usual. I think in the month of Ramadan, it's really difficult to...
Okay, thank you so much for that. With Maghrib approaching, this is all we have time for. We take this opportunity to thank Sister Ilham. It's been a great pleasure having you on this show, and we do very much look forward to inviting you again, and maybe we can finish this conversation off properly in relation to the tea and how we can then move on to some different types of exercises too. So, thank you very much, Sister Ilham. Our dear viewers, if you haven't had your questions answered today, then please do forgive us. However, if you send your questions again to us via email, we will ask Sister Ilham to answer these for you. A reminder of tomorrow's program, we have Sheikh Muhammad Al-Hilli for a Q&A session with our host, Muhammad Siddiq Jafar. Please do not forget to join in. And we now leave you tonight for wudu, and then come back to us. We'll then have Adhan. Whatever you are eating tonight, enjoy your iftar. We very much look forward to seeing you again tomorrow.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن عليًّا ولي الله. أشهد أن عليًّا حجة الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. حي على خير العمل. حي على خير العمل. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. لا إله إلا الله. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما.